For the first time, we're getting a look inside the Bowling Green courtroom the very moment this week when the now convicted killers of Crystal Rogers learned their fate. And hello, everybody. I'm Connie Leonard, WHAS11 News. Obtained that video late today. And the night team's Clarice Shaley and photojournalist Emma Gefter have been calling through that video and have a closer look at key moments.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, it's my understanding the bailiff indicated that you all have reached a verdict.
The Brooks Houck Joseph Lawson trial unseen until now. The 10-day trial comes down to these moments. The jury decides if Houck and Lawson are guilty in connection to the murder of Crystal Rogers.
In regard to Commonwealth versus Brooks William Houck,
on the right, Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson with their legal teams.
It says, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder, principal, or accomplice.
Brooks Houck stone-faced when the verdict is read. Played back, Crystal Rogers' family left of the courtroom overcome with emotions. Judge Charles Sims told the courtroom no outbursts.
Physical.
Family members hug each other. Crystal's mother, Sherry Ballard, puts her head down. They continue to cry as Lawson's verdict is read.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit murder.
Crystal's family wipes their eyes with tissues, while the Houck family stays emotionless. Among video moments that made headlines, for the first time, we're seeing Crystal alive in video surveillance shown in court. The video shows her and her son going to Walmart the day she disappeared, and key testimony.
But he said he'd been shave their head and pull their teeth and the hogs would do rest.
Okay.
This is from the direct examination of Charlie Girdley, a former employee of Brooks Houck. This was testimony the jury asked to rewatch.
Do you remember any conversation you had about Joey about Crystal's car that week? Can you say it one time?
He said he would bury it with a skid steer. Nobody ever found it. He even came up to me and said something about Brooks wanting to get rid of his old lady. He wasn't the man for the job that I was.
Testimony from Stephen Lawson, Joseph Lawson's dad, ex-girlfriend Heather Snellen.
Did you ever hear any conversation between Joseph Lawson and Steve Lawson as it relates to Crystal Rogers?
Yes.
And what was that conversation?
I overheard them talking about moving a body at the Houck farm.
And neighbor Mary Mattingly, who testified seeing Brooks' brother, former police officer Nick Houck, at his brother's home after Crystal's disappearance.
Well, he grabbed 2 bags. They were white bags. They had handles on them. They weren't trash bags, but they were just solid white bags. And he grabbed 2 of them and put them in Rosemary's car, and then he went back and got 2 more and put in the back of the car.
Okay, but you don't know what were in those bags, correct?
You couldn't see in the bags.
In this trial, there were many references of the unindicted co-conspirators, Brooks Houck's mom, Rosemary, and Nick Houck. In secret recordings, you hear mother and son talking evidence.
So they took his car from him?
No, that's fine. He was worried about that at first. Does that have anything on it?
Uh-uh.
We read that one yesterday.
Don't matter.
For WHAS 11 Night Team, I'm Clarice Shaley on your side.
And this reaction from Crystal Rogers' mother, Sherry Ballard. In a post to social media, she thanked the FBI and lead investigator Steve Geary, saying in part, he never forgot a birthday of my daughter's or an important anniversary date. Always reaching out to the family. I would personally like to thank his family too, because I know this job took a lot of that time away. New tonight, the sentencing for former LMPD detective Brett Hankison has been moved. Hankison was found guilty in federal court of violating Breonna Taylor's rights when he fired blindly into her apartment back in 2020. Hankison was scheduled to appear in federal court next week, but the prosecution requested an extension, saying it needed more time to weigh the relevant issues in the case. Judge Rebecca Grady Jennings granted that request, moving the sentencing date to July 22nd. However, she said there will be no further extensions or reschedulings granted. New tonight, a person is dead after a moped crash on the 2nd Street Bridge. LMPD said the moped was heading toward Indiana when it crashed, forcing the bridge to shut down for several hours. Now, cars can be seen from our weather camera being forced to turn around on the bridge. That crash happened just after 6 6:15, police say the moped driver hit a curb and then struck a truss on the bridge. Police say the driver was not wearing a helmet. The bridge was shut down until around 8:30 this evening. Also tonight, the man who shot at Mayor Craig Greenberg while he was running for office has pled guilty to state charges. Quintez Brown was charged with attempted murder and 4 counts of wanton endangerment in connection to the shooting. In 2022, Quintez Brown walked into the campaign office in Butchertown and fired 6 shots at Greenberg. One of those bullets grazing Greenberg's sweater that morning. Greenberg and 4 staffers were in the office and survived the shooting. Today, a judge sentenced Brown to 10 years for the state charges. Brown already pled guilty in federal court and was sentenced to 17.5 years in federal prison. In a statement, Mayor Craig Greenberg said he is relieved there will not be a trial so that he and the other victims will not have to relive the trauma from that day, going on to say, violence has no place in our political world. As a fortunate survivor, I will continue to work with strong resolve to end gun violence in our city and country. New tonight, former Deputy Mayor Keisha Dorsey is now suing Greenberg and Metro government for slander. Dorsey was fired in 2024 after the mayor's office said she had a pattern of misconduct and job performance issues. The mayor also accused Dorsey of time theft and repeated unexcused absences. Dorsey maintains she was wrongly fired while on medical leave. Now she says the mayor's statement about her firing is a direct attack on her character and is false. Dorsey is also suing the mayor's office for discrimination based on sex and race. We've reached out to the mayor's office for comment on the suit. We were told the allegations have no merit, saying in part, all of us who work for Louisville Metro government must uphold the public's trust. And that means being honest, showing up for work, conducting ourselves in an ethical manner, and working hard every day for the people of this city. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is pushing back against claims that hundreds of thousands will lose food stamps because of Trump's big, beautiful bill. On the 4th of July, Louisville's Mayor Craig Greenberg said 20,000 families here are likely to lose their SNAP benefits. The soon-to-be senior senator from Kentucky calling that a doomsday scenario and saying it is unlikely. Paul telling us he doubts you'll see much change, and what changes we do see will be good for the program.
If you're a 20-year-old kid with perfectly able to work, there's no reason for you to be on food stamps. It never used to be. It used to be for the mom who had 4 kids and there wasn't a husband and she couldn't work to try to provide for them. And that was something within reason. Now it's gotten to where everybody, 25% of the public is on it. And that's just, it's just unsustainable.
Now, Paul did end up voting no on the bill in the Senate. However, he did. It was only because of the price tag. However, he does support many of the cuts that the bill makes. Meanwhile, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is hitting back on that bill, calling it a direct attack on rural America. Beshear said the bill will close 35 hospitals in Kentucky, which he says in most rural counties are the 2nd largest employers. Beshear said even with a $50 billion provision, including in the bill to stabilize rural hospitals, counties stand to lose billions in economic impact.
That many fewer people going into the coffee shop, going into the restaurant, or going into the bank. And this is a direct attack on rural America, on our economy, and on our health care. Most of the tax breaks are going to go to very wealthy people that live in big cities. This is leaving rural America behind. And I get that rural America voted for this president, but he didn't tell them that he was going to pass a bill that was going to punch him in the face and ultimately make it that much harder to get by.
Beshear also says that 200,000 Kentuckians could be knocked off their health insurance because of the cuts to Medicaid. Trump and his GOP allies insist the cuts to Medicaid are necessary to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. The state's medical cannabis program is facing more legal challenges. A Louisville-based attorney filed a lawsuit on behalf of businesses who didn't get drawn in the license lottery. Now, Louisville attorney Greg Troutman claims the problems go back to the program's creation and that it may have exceeded what the state legislature permitted. He says the General Assembly did not specify if the Office of Medical Cannabis could ask a third party like the Kentucky Lottery Corporation to do the draws. Troutman also takes issue with the draw itself.
There was supposed to be transparency in the process, and that transparency was that individuals were supposed to be able to visualize and view the drawing. All you had was a computer and a screen, and a random number generator that populates with numbers. How do you, as watching that, know how those numbers were drawn?
Now, a spokesperson for the Office of Medical Cannabis said with the General Assembly's approval, the office developed a lottery system that is completely open, transparent, and viewable to the public. We are confident that any court will uphold the process. The former Bardstown Police Chief Rick McCubbin, who's best known for firing Nick Houck during the Crystal Rogers investigation, is facing charges of his own in Louisville. Rick McCubbin was arrested last month on a misdemeanor domestic violence assault and harassment charge. And according to court documents, he got into a physical altercation with two people, grabbing one by the arms and pinning her to the wall, then throwing a second victim off of him and onto a bed. Today, McCubbin entered into an informal agreement with the court, which includes an alcohol assessment. His next scheduled court appearance is set for December 19th. We contacted McCubbin for a statement, but he said he's not commenting at this time. Today, a mother of three charged with child endangerment pleaded guilty to all of her original charges except one of them, which was dismissed. Back in August, LMPD officers arrested Betty Sue Snyder after her kids were found hungry, thirsty, and living outside in the hot weather. The Commonwealth recommended a 3-year sentence for each felony and 365 days for each misdemeanor, all to run concurrently.
He further admitted that the victims were made to live outside, could not shower, and were left alone for long periods of time. He also admitted the victims did not have access to food or drink unless you came home and brought it to them, including during summer days with extreme heat.
A sentencing date was set for September 9th, and a probation and parole investigation has been scheduled.